But let's talk now about the There was a by-election last night that the Libs came, nearly won at one point there. It looked like they could win. Then they didn't. There was a swing, but it wasn't a big enough swing, etc., etc. Let me just say this. I personally am thrilled with last night's result. Why? Because had Labor lost, they'd have gone into a tailspin. Somehow or other, they would have managed to get rid of Albo and they might have put someone electable into the role running up to the next election. But now what we have, thanks to yesterday, we're going to have the Albo clown show is going to carry on. They're going to be booking more Taylor Swift concerts. They're going to be rushing around. They're going to be living the high life, off to the tennis, doing all this. And the poor people of Australia will suffer and watch this clown show carry on. So I reckon it's a result that will lead to Peter Dutton being the next Prime Minister. What do you reckon, Rita?
Well, you heard it here first. We said here last week, Labor were the hot favourite to retain that seat. It was likely going to become a marginal seat, and that is precisely what's happened. If they have a swing like that throughout a number of seats, they're going to be in a bit of trouble. So it's all a question of whether this swing will be reflected elsewhere. I'm not shocked by this. This is what we expected to happen. It's a strange seat, Dunkley. It's actually a seat that the Libs should hold every day of the week. And it says a great deal about how lost they have been recently that it's still a Labor seat, because this is a seat full of aspirational people who aren't mainly wealthy, but they want a better future for their kids. They work hard and their values are not aligned with Labor anymore. And I'm talking about those critical social issues, you might say, the cultural issues. And the Liberals have just been absent in those fights for too long. So a seat like Dunkley and those outer suburbs, the rural areas, is where the Liberals' future is. If they actually want to be in, they've got to forget about the teal seats. You might pick them up every now and then, you might lose them, but you can't be preoccupied with re-winning those teal seats and ignoring what the people in places like Dunkley care about, because that's your future.
And yet, just to sound a cautionary note on this, yes, it's absolutely true that seats almost never flip in the middle of the first term at a by-election.
I think it's been 90 years or something.
Yeah, it's been decades and decades. It's been a long, long time. The swing didn't come in as big as thought. Now, the interesting thing about Dunkley, though, is that it's really quite an economically diverse seat. It's got some very posh booths, some rather teal-y booths even, and it's got more sort of working class and aspirational ones. Now, what's interesting here is that the Dutton strategy of going after these outer suburban seats sort of vindicated, but they did better than they thought at the teal-type booths, the ones with a higher sort of economic income. The interesting thing about this tells me a couple of things. Number one, they shouldn't completely give up on those teal seats. All right?
I agree with that, 100%.
And I'm saying that's still the heartland, but never give those up, because you need those back to get government. Number two, you listen to some of the Voxies last night, speaking to people on the street. People were saying, it's a cost of living stuff, and then they were saying they were going to vote for Albo, and they were going to vote for Labor. And part of that, I think, is that because Albo has the ability to basically bribe people with the stage 3 tax cut changes, that cut through, and there's no doubt about that. And I think that if that by-election hadn't occurred, the stage 3 debate might be very different right now. The message, though, for Peter Dutton has to be one where they say, look, Albo is telling you lies. He's gaslighting you when he says things are getting better, that your income is going up. It's not. Prices are still too high. You're not getting your $275 utility bill cut. Your household income went backwards more last year in Australia than in any OECD country. So we are shifting backwards. We are going backwards. It's lifestyle shrinkflation, and that's the problem that Australia has. That's the message that Peter Dutton is going to have to hit a lot harder.
I think Labor's going to be too smart to do that. I don't think they're going to come and tell people we're doing so much better.
But they
Look
are.
at this economic data when they know people are hurting. They know people who've got a mortgage have had more than 10 increases. So they really are counting on some interest rate cuts to come before the next election to alleviate some of that cost of living, and hopefully they'll be thinking we'll get credit for that because people will feel that in their hip pocket. But I'm not saying abandon the teal seats. I'm saying if you form policies and your agenda
right,
through
you're
the
right.
filter
You
of
don't- absolutely,
through the lens
absolutely.
of those,
That's correct.
then you are never going to make a meaningful impact in those outer seats in the regional
in
area.